All right, Joe. We actually live now.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah. So you can hear me, yeah?
Yes,
All right, perfect. So how's everything with you? Good?
good. Yeah, we're just finally getting settled back in from getting back from the Super Show.
Right. How was the show, by the way?
Pretty good. Yeah, it sounded like they had quite a few issues with parking, trying to get people in that place.
Yeah. You know what? It's really funny that you mentioned that because almost like like all of them, like 95% people say the same thing too. Like the parking is super
Yeah.
expensive. The traffic is insane. There's like like people everywhere. It's like nonstop. Which one you like better, the Anaheim or the Pomona?
So we've only done each one of them now once. I
Okay.
think Pomona was obviously easier to get people in and out, and we did a little bit better there. But overall, I mean, we still got to meet a lot of new people, new customers. Put names
Mm,
to faces. So overall, both shows were good. Talking to
right.
the other vendors, they all kind of said that they prefer it back at Pomona.
Yeah. So you going to the next one then, right? Because I think we have it in October, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, we don't. We usually just concentrate on Tinley, October Tinley. So then we don't travel to California. Usually, it just depends on if we got enough animals left, kind of to get one more show after October Tinley. So usually January is a kind of a slower time for shows. So it's a good time
Right.
to kind of get the family together and travel out there.
Right. Right. So you're not going back to the next one then, right?
No, no, not the. If we do go back, it would be the January show. So basically, a year from now.
Okay. Okay. Well, to be honest with you, even though I'm like from California, but I'm not a big fan for the Pomona shows or the Anaheim shows. Maybe because I know like what's going on like in terms of the animals, and then I mean it's always good to go to your local show, right? I mean I'm a big supporter to like all of these shows, but like for me personally, I'm talking about like animal wise, I don't see anything new, other than just go there and then say hi to friends, and especially if I only go to like once a year, like every shows. So it's always good to like see you guys, see a couple of friends, and then like new people in the hobbies or things like that. Other than that, like I don't feel like the need to go.
Yeah, it's different. I think with
Hmm.
us being in Minnesota and getting to go to then Tinley twice a
Yeah,
year, Tinley's
yeah,
just crazy. There's just so many
yeah,
people, but then just it seems like the level, the quality of the animals,
yeah,
just that it's just the place to be. So that's always our, you kind of set the bar by that, and I guess overall Anaheim and Pomona kind of remind me of maybe just a smaller local show, but it's just California, so it's
yeah,
huge.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, how did you get started?
Oh, it's same kind of
Yeah,
the same story that everybody's got. I've been into
yeah.
reptiles, animals my whole life, but I was
Mhm.
very fortunate to. We got to the point where we had ones and twos of different reptiles, and then we really wanted the wife and I made the decision to start breeding. So we did some
Right.
research and you know bought a few ball pythons and got started, and then after that, kind of as we slowly started growing,
Mhm.
the rest of my family started showing interest, and
Right.
luckily for me, they jumped right in. So now we raise our own rodents, which is pivotal to being able to have a
Yeah,
large collection. So if we
that's
didn't,
true. True.
if I didn't have the whole family jumping in, then we'd be much smaller. And it would have stayed more of a hobby versus growing, kind of as big as we have now.
Right. So you do this like full time?
Oh no, no, my
Oh no,
we all have
not
full
yet.
time jobs. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, because that's probably a good thing to kind of like mention it. I know a lot of people think to jump into these hobbies and they make it as their full time. But people don't realize like not many people just jumped in and then like doing it as a full time because maybe they started as like the hobby first, like the part time job or things like that. And then once everything is kind of like in circle, and then you kind of like ripped off all the profit or things like that, then you can go in as a full time, because it's not like always rainbows. There's no like issues and then just like smooth road all the way to the top. You know what I mean? This is the one thing that not many people understand, that because just like that last show back in Anaheim, right? I mean, people only see the that those labels, those pricing, right? Because the only thing, okay, so that animal is like $5,000, right? Okay, so if I make four of them, I don't need to work for like the whole year. True, but you don't know what's going
I wish
on
it was that
behind
easy.
it, right? I mean, if it was that easy, everybody's gonna do it. I mean, no one gonna like
Right.
open company just like everybody doing reptiles. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But
Yep.
it's this is probably one of the reason I like to talk with like you guys, like bunch of my friends, and then people that like me personally consider as successful breeders, because I still see like up until today there's like so many people are doing this YouTube pretending like they're successful, even though behind the screen they like struggle. You know what I mean? Pretending to
Yeah.
be like an expert or whatnot. I mean, I get it for people for like us. We know what's going on, but like new peoples that do not know that person at all. They think like, oh, that that must be that easy, and then they're trying to do the same thing too, and then end up failing after like 2 years. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. It's definitely you definitely got to put the work in. And depending
yeah,
on, it all depends on what level you want to do it too. You can keep it as
yeah,
small as just a family pet with maybe the future breeding, or start with a hobby, or just work your way up.
yeah,
I mean, that's the easiest way, is to start slow and be patient and just let it grow itself. Don't try to
yeah,
push it or rush it. But then, yeah,
right,
there's so much information out there now with social media that you just don't know what to believe. You got people telling you,
yeah,
you could be doing the same thing, but one way you're going to kill your animal, and then the next way it's perfect. But everybody's doing, it's difficult. You definitely gotta invest in the breeder that you're buying the
yeah.
animals from, because then you can trust the knowledge that you're getting from that breeder.
Right. How long have you been doing this as a hobby or as the
This,
hmm
I guess, as officially started breeding, I guess it's been 10 years.
Okay. Almost the same like me. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because see, like things like this, like not many people understand. Like it took you at least minimum 10 years plus or so, right? Because they only see you, let's say, from that Dave Kaufman videos when he went to your facilities, and then they look at you. You have the facilities, so they think like, okay,
Yep.
let me do it like next year, and I'll be successful like like 2021. See, like
Yeah,
things
no,
like this that. Uh-huh.
yeah,
Go ahead.
we started out slow, and
Yeah.
basically let every year let the money that we did make or didn't make, depending on the year, and then just
Yeah.
kept rolling that over into the animals, kept reinvesting, and then every year, luckily we did pretty well, and then we just had to, it was each year you had to make the decision to go bigger, to make room,
Yeah.
for the rodent to feed your collection. So that's kind of what we're
Yeah.
driving the facility, is to make sure we had enough rodents to feed everything in order to grow and keep getting bigger.
Right. Speaking about rodent, how do you guys breed your rodents?
Oh, I guess overall it's just more of a community thing. You put so many, couple males and females in the tubs,
Okay.
breed them. Once they're
Mm-hmm.
pregnant, then separate them, and then they have their own
Or you just
tub.
take it out. Okay. So you don't do like 1:5 or like 2:8 or something like that. That ratio that most people do.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like that.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Depending on the size and where we're at that time of year, the numbers might ramp
right.
up a little bit. Yeah, basically kind of the same thing.
Okay, okay. Yeah, because that's another thing too. Rodent are like food, probably like the main thing that you have to constantly maintain, because they eat like, like there's no tomorrow, especially during the breeding season. That's one of the things that not many people, able to factor in. Like the more animals you have or the bigger collection that you have, meaning the more food or rodent that you need, people kind of like don't factor in that necessity alone. You know what I mean? Because some rodent, if you breed them yourself, that's another scenario. But still, it's it's still a good expensive, because like the substrate, the food itself, and then the caging, unless you build it by yourself. But if you don't breed your own, and then you have to buy it from like Rodent Pro or like your local breeder, it's still a lot of money.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Is so for us it was to be able to produce enough rodents for our collection, and then enough
Right.
rodents to sell to local people that would
Yeah.
cover the bedding, substrate, the kind of
Mm-hmm.
upgrade the caging as needed. So then the
Yeah.
rodents would be self-sufficient.
Yeah. Yeah. What project that you're working on right now? The one that you can share.
Um, we're I guess we just bought a True Ghost male from Tim Bailey
Ah.
at
Yeah.
Tinley, and
Yeah.
I guess I'm really excited about that. That's everybody always wants to argue over what line of Azanthic is better,
Yeah.
which direction you should go. Well, when
Right.
you finally get a True Ghost and set it next to an Azanthic, then it's an
Mhm.
easy answer. So we work with
Yeah.
the VPI line of Azanthic, but we're
Yeah.
now I'm going to slowly start getting everything into the True Ghost project.
Right. Yeah, that's probably one of the combos that kind of like underrated, because the animals itself, it gets better with age. I've seen like
Yep.
one of the females like 2500. It's still beautiful. There's
Yep.
no speck of brown or like getting fade away or things like that. And then you actually mentioned a really good things that it doesn't matter like which line you're working on. I think what matter is like what can you do with it. Because people tend to argue and then fighting for the wrong things. Because most people that love to argue like which one is better, which one is not, they never produce anything cool. If you check their page,
Right.
they just spend most of their time like arguing instead of producing something cool,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. We
You know,
try to. Anybody that asks me, I just tell them kind of
mhm.
the same thing, where it's just you got to find that right animal that's high quality. And then everything
Yeah.
you produce out of that animal is going to be a quality animal, and as you hold it back and continue to breed it, they're just going to continue to get better.
Yeah, yeah, and then you get it from like a really good guy too, Tim Bailey. I got some of the animals from him too. Are you familiar with his yellow gene? Have you heard of it?
Who? Which one?
From Tim Bailey, yellow gene. Well, he called it
Oh,
yellow
yeah,
gene.
Yep,
Yeah,
just from talking to him briefly, but I guess I don't know
yeah,
a ton about it.
it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And then yeah, and also get a few animals from him. What was the other one? Well, not much. Oh, Typhoon. It's pretty cool too. It looks like
Oh, yeah.
like a s-
Yeah.
like a spot nose thing, but it's pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah,
That,
yeah,
yeah, that looks like it's going to grow into something, hopefully.
yeah, yeah. But nothing really much done because he's still kind of like figure out like like how the gene works, if it is incomplete dominant, if there's like a super version. But I just like like the way the single gene looks like, and then I see a lot of potentials in terms of like combo wise. So yeah. What do you think about the market right now? How's the ball python market right now? What do you think?
Depending on who
Is it
you
gonna
talk
crash?
to, but I mean, yeah, as usual. I think well, that's kind of a funny story. I mean,
Yeah.
I think a lot of us, everybody's kind of run into that same thing. To when you remember when you first start that you talk to somebody about it, or you reach out to ask questions.
Yeah.
And 10 years ago, they didn't want to
Mhm.
help you unless you were going to start spending a ton of money with them.
Yeah.
We were extremely lucky that the people that we reached out to, really helped us, and just gave us tips and stuff to work for. We could call and talk to them, and
Right.
it just made it easier on us to learn. But I don't know, it's a huge transition, I guess. I mean, how many years ago was it that people were spending, $50,000 for a banana ball python? But now,
Yeah.
now it's just not like that. But to me, this market is
Uh-huh.
what you put into it. The more you work at it
Yeah.
and the more you reach out and you go to shows and you talk to people and meet new people, I think
Mm-hmm.
the market for us takes care of itself. The more, the more we get to meet people and travel, and you concentrate on making quality animals, and they're going to sell themselves.
Right. Yeah. I don't think people really understand that, like those people that spend like, $50,000, like $25,000, and then I pay like $18,000 for like one of the male. And then, those people, including myself, we already make our money back, because people
Yep.
comparing like where they first, saw the animals, when they were like 25,000, and then, compare it with like the one that they saw like last weekend. I mean, it doesn't work that way. And then I always tell
No.
people that, I'm tell people that whatever you put it in, most likely that's what you're gonna get, because you cannot put it in, like $100 and then hoping to make $10,000. It doesn't work that way, unless obviously you do not know like what you're doing, So if you put like $5,000, that's what you're gonna get. I mean, unless, just like I said, you do not know what you're doing. But like market wise, I think it's really strong. I mean, I'm not really like, I know the the overall market in general, because I'm not really active like in it. But like you see people, keep like expanding, right? And then they get like a bigger facilities, or getting like more cagings. And then I already order like two more racks for all the babies, like these coming babies, for the new season. I mean, I'm thinking about it, right? That one rack alone is gonna cost me like 2,500 easy ship, right? And then if I
Right.
think there's no money in it, like why I keep investing the money into the hobby?
Yeah, it
You
seems
know
like
what I
all the
mean?
caging companies. Yeah, the caging companies
Yeah,
just have a long lead time. So that's a great sign for the market, is that everybody's still investing in caging, and the stuff's
right.
not cheap, unless you want to build it
Yeah, they're
yourself.
not.
But you still
Right,
want a quality cage or a rack system to put your animals in. So yeah,
right.
I think the market's really good. Like you said, there's a place for everybody. You can invest in it and
Mm-hmm.
spend a lot of money, but it just takes
Mm-hmm.
you a little bit longer if it's new to get your money back. But you can also see them phenomenal animals and then buy everything at a cheaper price to make it. It might just take you a couple of years.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, it. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's good to see like like some of the pricing is coming down a lot, because I feel it's good for those that cannot afford the animals at first, right? So it's get more like affordable, so most people able to have the same animals, things like that. That's great, but some people kind of like think, like if they invest like $200, they hoping to make like 20,000 or like 10,000. It doesn't
Yeah.
work that way.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because
No.
whatever you put it in, that's what you're gonna get. Bottom line. So that's why sometimes
Yeah.
like like dealing with me, because there's like so many so many people that getting this dinker project or like import project, right? So they get it for like $100. There's some random in the back, so-called import bunch of normals technically. So, and then they call me, or they text me, or they email me like, hey, I have these new things, and then do you want it? I can sell it for you like for 5K. So I'm like, dude, you spend like $100, and you
And
keep
they
it for
don't
like
even
two
know what
weeks.
it actually does yet.
Exactly, exactly. So I'm like, it doesn't work that way. So work on it. I'm not saying that they're not gonna prove not to be like a new gene or things like that. Work on it, because most of us, like myself, it took me like at least minimum 3 5 years at least just to go to come up with one thing. That's it. And then so it's really tough sometimes to make people understand like how the whole game works. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah. And then the other thing is they'll spend the 5K into that big breeder, the next biggest thing or the next biggest male, but then they don't
Mm-hmm.
have any kind of females lined up for it. They got all hatchling females or
Yeah.
sub-adult stuff, and they got nothing to do with it. So you really got to take
Yeah.
the time and plan out. If you got a couple nice racks full of high quality females, then you can then
Yeah.
you might be able to make your money back quicker.
Right. Um, let me ask you this: what is your advice for new people that just started? Let's do two things. So one is just wanna build up their collection, and then the other one is wanna do it like full time, like as a full time income, like their main income.
Yeah, I mean, building a collection, just like kind of what
Mm-hmm.
we were just talking about. To
Mm-hmm.
to me, you gotta narrow down what you want to work with, and then
Yeah.
if they are recessive projects, buy the
Mm-hmm.
recessive females first, get them on the shelf, start raising them up. That's where it just takes all that time. You gotta
Yeah.
get the animals in your collection, raise them up, and then start investing the money in the males. Don't go out and like everybody starts. You buy too many males and then you don't have enough females.
Right.
So, the to try to do it full time, that's the biggest thing is just to let your collection and like you got to figure so many things out. Are you raising your own rodents? Do you have a constant supply? Is that supplier going to be in business in 5 years? Can you trust
Mm.
them? Um, and then just slowly grow your collection. You'd have to have a lot of money to invest to go directly into it full time.
Yeah.
So you want to let the collection and build your reputation up. Because all of a sudden you go and
Yeah.
invest all kinds of crazy money into these animals, but then nobody knows who you are.
Yeah. 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 That's a good point. And then I usually say, like I like to keep things like really simple. I usually ask like how much fun that you want to put it into this so-called hobby business, whatever that you want to call it, right? So to make it easy, so let's say if you have like $1,000, I like to have that person divide it into like three categories. So it's like one third. So technically you can only invest like $200, and then the $300, then the two-third of it, then you can keep it as let's say just in case if something happened to the animals. I'm talking about like when they have this period to grow the animals until they get to the point that they can breed the animals. And then
Right.
the last one third is just in case if something come out. Let's say someone give you like a really deal of the centuries, and then you have to kind of like spend the money, right? I think that's probably
Yep.
the safest way to structure it, because I feel like most people they jump into this hype, right? And then they maxed out two or three credit card, and then like I mean typically they smiling like all day long like the first month, right? And then and then month six, or like after like 7 or 8 months, they starting to feel it like all of these bills, right? All of these expenses that they have to cover with all of these animals. That's why we see
Yep.
bunch of things. They just dump the prices, or they have to resell the animals because they cannot keep up with all of these bills. But if you want to play it as for like the long term, I'm talking about like 3 5 years from now, you have to play it safe. It depends on your situations. I mean, especially if you have like families that you have to take care of, that's another expensive too, right? But if you're like single, or you just want to do this as like full time, like ready to go, then the ratio can change. So you can do like maybe like 50-50 instead of like one third, right? Or you
Right.
can do
Yeah.
like 20-80s. So you just go all in, and then save like 20 just in case if the animals may be like sick, or the male turns up cannot breathe when you needed him to. So saving for the rainy day, I think, is much better, because just like we talked like earlier, like not many people see the bad side. Well, not the bad side, but the rainy day that they don't have
Yeah.
anything. Well, let's call it the safety net. They don't have that. They just like jumped in because they think they're
Yep.
gonna triple double the money like next year or so. It doesn't work that way. I think that's probably the
No.
the the safest way to like structure it, in my opinion,
Yeah,
at
I mean
least.
that's because everybody just thinks you're gonna buy these animals. They're gonna breed in the first year. You're gonna get a
Yeah.
quality, viable clutch of eggs. So what happens? You invest all that money. and then you don't do something right, and then those females slug
Yeah.
out. We've run into a couple of different people that have got into that too much too soon, and then
Yeah.
they really struggled the second and third year trying to get those. They were lucky enough to get a good clutch. They produced that combo that
Yeah.
they wanted. It was a
Yeah.
high quality, expensive male. Well, then they struggled with getting that new male breeding. So then they didn't know what to do, how to get the young male breeding, and get how to
Mm-hmm.
kind of have that process. How to get the older males cycled out and get the newer ones cycled in. There's
Right.
just so much you got to figure out and learn along the way. So you just got to take your time and be patient with it.
Right. Um, Another question too. How do you move your animals? Like, how do you move your, you know, your stocks, like your babies, and then the new offspring or things like that? How do you move them?
As far as selling,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean we've we've cut back a little bit on shows from traveling, like locally,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
mainly you do your local shows, and then Tinley, and then
Yeah.
mainly Morph Market. You got to be careful
Right.
on Facebook and that kind of stuff now, because obviously they're clamping down on that. But
Yeah.
for the most part, Morph Market's worked really well for us.
Okay. Yeah, that's another thing too, because I think like one of the most important thing probably the ability to sell, right? Because you can have the best combos or the best gene or like new gene, but if you cannot sell or if you do not know how to sell, you end up cutting yourself short. You know what I mean? Because you get desperate because you cannot sell. Because I know for sure at least like 85% of the people, they just posted their animals on like Morph Market or like King Snake, and then they're hoping and praying if the animal gonna sell like next week, you know. But I think just like what you guys been doing so far, like going to the shows and then networking, make friends, is probably really helpful. And then, well, unfortunately, we have this so-called social media too, right? Because that's probably what gonna help this hobby get to the next era, because everything is about social media now. If you don't have that or if you do not know what to do, it will be tough. Yes, you can just go to the shows or just post your animals like online. But one thing that I really well we actually talk about it like back in Anaheim, that people buy into you, the person, not the animals. The
Yep.
animals is probably like the second best of like whatever that you can deal directly with your like your future buyers or even other breeders. So I think if we can somehow give other people the avenues to to explore like so many ways to sell their offspring, maybe we're not gonna see how desperate people keep cutting the price and then keep lowering the price and then trying to drop the market, which is gonna affect everybody in the community for the long run. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's where I need to work on myself. I know I'm not not really good at being in front of a camera, that type of thing, and running around, and filming everything like that. Where I
Right.
really appreciate you asking me to be on the podcast, and
Yeah.
guys like Dave Kaufman that did the video on our facility, and Brian
Mm-hmm.
Cusco. I mean, you guys are great, and it's good for me because luckily
Uh-huh.
I've got to meet you guys, and and this is a great avenue for
Right.
myself and my family to get
Yeah.
us out there, get to connect with new customers, and I think that's pivotal because they want to see who you are. Do they trust you? Can they
Yeah.
relate to you? And then if they do run into an issue, are you going to be there for them?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because like majority of the people think that they have to have the most expensive project or the most coolest combos in order to drive their sales. That's not necessarily true, because I still have friends that just produce like a single gene bananas, and then they sell like cupcakes, you know, and then
Yes.
think about it.
Yep.
If they produce like 50 or like 100 of them, and then well, let's just put it like easy numbers. Let's say like like $100 or like $200 for the females, right? That thing alone gonna cover your expensive, right?
Right.
Because you
Yep.
don't need to have like Pompeii or like whatever DG combos. You don't have to,
Yep.
you know. Yeah, that's probably one
Yeah.
of the
That's
kind of. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
that's just for us too. It's to try to find that happy medium of where, you know, we
Yeah.
want to produce those, cutting edge stuff, the really coolest stuff, but
Yeah.
that also is a little bit harder to sell, takes a little longer. But then if you go to the shows and you have, the
Hmm.
quality mid to low range stuff, that's where you meet a lot of your newer customers.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because like lower end, I think it's probably like well, not something that you need to focus on. I mean, I get it if you wanna, catch up with all the hypes, right? Which is fine, but don't just focus on that because your bread and butters are the lower end. Because just like for me, my ratio typically like a 70/30. Well, I'm 70. Well, I'm doing this as a hobby, so 70% are just the
Yep.
project that I'm gonna hold back, and then 30% just kind of like wholesales or like selling it for like all of these clients that I have, just to cover the expensive like the staff, all the the food, and then all the utilities or things like that. But so it depends on like what your situation is, right? I mean, if you're doing this as a full time, then obviously your expenses is gonna be like way more than what I have,
Yes.
So
Yep.
yeah. So
Yeah. And
what
then
is next for you
when you're
guys?
going,
I'm
what's next
I'm
for
sorry. Go
us?
ahead. Yeah. No. What were you about to say? I'm sorry to cut you off.
Oh, yeah, that's all right. Just like your
Uh,
mid range, low range is ends up being basically a byproduct of you shooting for
yeah.
those bigger projects. So then you're still
Right.
making quality animals, and then
Mm-hmm.
everybody needs those animals to fit into their collections too. So those usually end up being stuff that's easier to sell.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just like like banana or like those coral glow, even like clown, like single engine clown, and then like piebald, they sell like cupcake. It doesn't matter females or males because people kind of you need to make like females. No, male or female, it doesn't matter. They sell like really fast unless you do not know how to sell or kind of like negotiate with other people. That's another story. But other than that,
Yeah.
so yeah, knowing what your situation is, because we can talk about like this and that, how to do this, to do that, right? But like every people have their own personal situation, right? Like what you can do and what you cannot do, and what you have, what you don't have, right? And then what you want to do and what you don't like to do. So it's not like one advice fits everybody. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So back to that question. What is next for you guys?
We just kind of getting rolling on this next breeding season. We're
Okay.
probably a little bit behind on where we were last year, but we're just trying to get everybody. We just got done feeding before we jumped on here, so we're like
Oh,
all of our
okay.
females are gearing up to have a great season. I hope.
But should be. Do you guys feed like once a week or like twice a week or 3 times a week?
It just depends. Normally, like the
Man.
babies and the younger stuff is usually once a week, and then
Okay.
a lot of the big adult females, depending on if they went last year or not, it'll be once a week to maybe 2 times or every other week.
Okay. Yeah. So it's almost the same. Yeah, because in breeding season, the female is gonna need a lot of food, to reserve that fat or things like that to grow, their follicles. Yeah.
Yeah, at least try to feed
Yeah.
them up while they're growing follicles, and then once they shut up, obviously, then it
Yeah.
slows down a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanna ask you about your facility. How do you set it up? Like I'm talking about like the whole thing, like the heating and then all the circulations, or like when you divide it, let's say the room for the babies, the room for the adult, or how do you guys structure it?
Basically, it's when we built the building, it was to try to get maximum space, but then have
Mm-hmm.
enough room for the rodents and the reptiles. And then
Mm-hmm.
one thing that we took some time, and that's the part that a lot of people don't think of is all of everything you need to set up everything. So then we raise our own rodents, but then you need storage space for food and bedding.
Yeah.
Your freezers, and then for your snakes, you need all your everything to clean, and your shipping boxes and all that other stuff. So you need just as much room to set everything up. Kind of your workspace and your work area.
Yeah.
But for the reptiles, it's one big room. We just have kind of the breeders on one side and the babies to subadults on the other side.
Oh, okay. How big is your facility?
The total building is just about 1,700 square feet.
Oh, okay. That's actually pretty big. Yeah. Yeah, because the one that I have is it's a warehouse, so it's not like a like a specifically built for the facility. I think it's like 2,500, but I only use it for like 1,800. So yeah, and then the rest just mostly just
Yep.
like space for a bunch of junk.
Yep. Yeah, that
Yeah,
takes up a lot of space though.
yeah. Do you heat like the whole room, or how does it work?
Yeah, so with being in Minnesota, obviously, like right now, it's probably I don't even know, 10, 15 degrees outside right now.
Okay.
So we use in-floor heat. That it's
Okay.
probably the only way I would do it up here. So
Mhm.
you have three different cycles running in there. That's they're separate, or three different zones. So you have one zone for the reptile side, one zone for the
Mhm.
rodents, and then kind
Okay.
of one zone for our workspace area, kind of our garage area.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
then the reptiles
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
the reptile side has forced air too. So it has
Okay.
we have a furnace just to kind of help back up the in-floor heat, and then obviously we have our air conditioner running through the furnace.
So the ambient temperature it stays like 80 all year
Yeah,
long.
78 to 80. Yep. Yep.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so much the same. Yeah. Well, I don't really have that. I never set up everything for the ambient temperature. I mean, we are in California. We never have that snow, right? Unless it's the end of the world or something like that. But yeah, hopefully not. But yeah, I never have that like. Well, I wish. Well, so what happened before when I first set up like the whole thing? This is my very first facility before. I heat up like everything, and then I found out if I don't really need to kind of play around or have like a certain range to fully optimize my my breeding pairs, right? Like all the adult.
Yep.
So I'm talking about like California weather. So I don't want people like listen this like in Ohio when it's like snowing and then they're trying to do the same thing too. So I don't have like a specific room temperature based on I set it up. I never drop anything, so everything says stay the same. And then so my point is if the female ready, and then if I feel like she can go like the whole this breeding process, and then I started my pairing just like that. I don't have any light cycles. I don't have any like nighttime drop or anything. So the key point that I have is based on the weight. So if I see the female is like ready to go, and then once been doing this for like forever, you can just like see all the signs. I mean
Oh yeah. Yep.
not that I know everything, but you just can tell like the females like ready to go, and then typically I like to start it when they're like small. Well, not small. When they hit that like 1,000 gram mark. I know this gonna sounds like really weird because usually people wait until like 1,500 or like 2,500 or 1,800, right? Somewhere around
Mm-hmm.
around that range. But for me, typically I started from when the female hit like 1,000 gram, not necessary to breed, just to introduce her or most of the females. So what happened typically, um, that particular female. So let's say if I do that certain things to, let's say, like 25 females, right? And then usually 80% of them gonna eat like there's no tomorrow. I'm talking about they're gonna go out and bite your face. Those are the
Yeah.
females that for sure guarantee gonna go. So I can just put the mark like a green mark or like like a green dot. They usually go. So the reason I started to kind of play around with all of this, like weight range is because I got one of my female import, and then she was really small. She was like 1,100, and then she had 4 eggs. I'm talking about healthy eggs. So I was like, wait a minute, if 1,100 gram female can lay healthy, like eggs. I mean, obviously they're not gonna have like 8 eggs, but because they're small, like so. Why can't I start breeding my females when they hit like 1,000 gram? So I started to implement that process, that idea, and then after like talking to like I'm talking about like Tracy VPIs and then like Tom Barker or things like that, they actually kind of agree with me because like back in the wild they don't have like that mindset like, oh wait a minute, right, when they see like females like in the wild, they're not, oh you cannot breed with me because I'm not like 1,500 gram. They don't care because ball
Right.
python
Yeah.
in general is
You're
like
not bringing them
opportunistic.
until next year.
Exactly. And then not many people I think really know this. And then so that's why I'm willing to kind of like well, not trying to force someone to do what I do, but I'm kind of like exchange that idea. That's just my opinion, but yeah. So
Yeah, we try to shoot for like the 1,400 gram mark.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but if they maybe they're not the greatest eater or something like that, and they start to get
Yeah.
through their 3rd year into their 4th year,
Uh-huh.
then we do breed them. We've had good success with that. Where once you know your animals and they're at a good weight, then you just got to take your time and figure out can she make it through the breeding process? Is she
Yeah.
old enough, or does she have good body mass? Because you can
Yeah.
have a real long and lean 1,100 grams, or you could have a short and stocky 1,100 grams.
Yeah. That's another thing too. Like most people, they don't have the impatience, so they tend to buy like bunch of adults, which is fine. I mean, I do the same thing too sometimes, but I think it's always better to raise your breeding stock from the ground up, because that animals or those animals gonna get used to it on how you do your feeding, your temperature or things like that. They get used to it, because like most of my like breeder females, somehow some way they know if it is not like Sunday, it's not feeding day, so they're fine. But if you open like Sunday morning, they're gonna launch and then strike you. They're like ready to eat. They just know. I mean, I don't know why, they just know. Yeah, so things like that, like small things like that, and then like during the breeding season, they already know. So if I introduce the like the males, and then they usually starting to develop the follicles, and then they already know like the whole scenario pretty much. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, they've been in the system long enough, and they know the cycle, so then it's
Yeah.
easier on them.
Yeah. Do you breed most of your females like every years or every other years?
I guess we go through and just kind of take it by how that female is recovered. She laid last year and she's back pounding food and back up to weight. Then
Right.
we'll throw a male in there. But if usually after like the first pairing, if we don't, she's not moving, or if she's not looking like she's gonna to go the distance or develop follicles, then I might just put her on the kind of set her aside till next year.
Okay. Do you believe this idea that typically this is just my opinion, by the way. Typically, once the female lay, I'm talking about those breeders, the one that lay, after 16 meals, which is 4 months, right? Yeah, which is 4 months. They usually able to go back to the breeding cycle.
Yeah, yeah. Usually
What do
that's
you think?
kind of
Okay.
well, yeah, what we're doing now is, we keep kind of a basic feed card. So I have all the dates laid, on or wrote down when they ovulated, when they laid
Yeah.
their eggs, and then
Yeah.
now since we're in the facility now, we're tracking it to where just to see each individual female, how many meals they got into them, and then if they go this season, then we'll kind of see. But obviously, you'll know right away if they're up to weight or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. Yeah. That's probably one of the things too, because like this argument, like like females gonna take forever to breed, and then male is much better, like much faster. Not necessarily true, because female can grow like really fast too. And then like for my perspective is that I never use the female like back to back. I usually give them like 1 year off, so I only breed them like like once every 2 seasons, pretty much, because I find out there's the females seems to be like more healthy, and then they give me more like healthy eggs, and then it seems just like overall it's I'm great, because those female that you keep pumping the eggs like every year tend to like not in a good shape. It's just my based on my experience. So what do you think?
Yeah, and then that's so then obviously if you give her the year off, now she's got almost a year and a half to get back
Mm-hmm.
up to a quality weight. So
Yeah.
yeah, we've had females that have gone back to back years, and then they
Mm-hmm.
won't go the next year. But then also there was a couple females that we basically talked it through, and we were going to give them the year off. Well, then they were developing follicles. So then it was, well, then is it gonna be harder on them to get the follicles to a certain size and
Mm-hmm.
then reabsorb? So then
Mm-hmm.
we ended up pairing them up. And they seem to do all right.
Yeah, yeah. Do you usually wait until the female has the follicles and then introduce her to the males, or you just introduce the male first in order for the females to develop the follicles?
Yeah, for the most part, we've always put the males in first.
Okay.
But then the more proven breeder females that we have, and we know when they lay, then we slow down on pairing that male up. We know when she's going to go, if she goes. So then we kind of work backwards and then know it's that time. So usually the proven females end up basically already having follicles by the time you put that male in. But it's the newer, younger females that it's always worked really well for us to start pairing them up. So then they actually kind of maybe they know what's going on, or oh hey, now there's a male in the area. So now that'll kick her into developing follicles.
Yeah, that's actually kind of the same thing that I do here too. What do you usually do if you find this stubborn male that usually like new males, the one that for some reason it just turn gay on you, they just don't want to breed, or just like really lazy? How do you deal with them?
Luckily, we haven't had too many issues with that. Knock on wood,
Yeah.
But usually, it's kind of the whole thing. I think we've tried it where you throw the shed in of another male. I know some people throw in two males with the female, and then let them to start, get them to start kind of battling, and then they pull
Mm-hmm.
the other the other male out to try.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't had too many issues with that. We're not like pushing them real young, try to get them up to size. And
Mm-hmm.
as long as we've had good success with, as long as the female is ready and she's receptive, usually they get it figured out.
Okay. And then once they lock, I mean, do you breed them like every week, or like once a month, or like every other week, or how do you pair them?
For the most part, overall, I think we're lucky to get 2 locks with a female.
Mm-hmm.
That's we've been pretty lucky that way with kind of knowing where they are in their follicle development to get
Yeah.
the one breeding early on, and then get the
Yeah.
follicle growth, and then kind of finish her off with that 2nd one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kind of the
But
same thing here too, big.
Yeah, but it
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
usually kind of a. I usually try to tell like new people that are just starting, so they don't wear out their males. That even if
Yeah.
you could go once a month, or even like once a shed cycle, until you actually see
Mm,
what they're actually doing, so you're not kind of over pairing them.
yeah. 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 Almost the same. I usually just once I know they look like once, I usually pair them like once a month. So
Yep.
that way, I can kind of like rotate like the males to like more females, and then it depends on if it is like new males, and then like really small. I usually don't go more than like three females, and then once a month lock,
Right.
and then but if the males, even though if he's small, but if he keeps eating, then he can perhaps go to like more females or like much longer breeding season. Other than that, I pull them back like right away. So yeah.
Yeah, the younger males definitely. I've started pairing them up,
Hmm.
and if they lock up right away, I just
Hmm.
keep an eye on them. And as soon as they're done, I'll put him back in his own tub, and then I usually try to feed him right away.
Yeah, and then typically I've been talking with this kind of like topic to a lot of breeders, and then some of find it out as really helpful, for them. So what I do is, so let's say if I have like new males and I really want him to breed, right? And then for some reason he turns gay on me. So I don't I don't put like another male, because I feel, well, not I feel, I find out if they get really stressed out. So they either can like completely shut down or like never breathe until like next couple months. So typically I use like a male, like a baby, like a juvenile male, and then just put it in that clear container, and then just put it there. For some reason, it trigger that younger male without stressing him out that much. For some reason, that works.
Yeah.
And then I also
Yep.
try to put that. So let's say I found out the other breeding pair just lock. So I put out. Well, I take their. Well, I'm using unprinted newspaper, so I can easily put back and forth. So I take
Yep.
their newspaper and then put it back to this lazy mail. Typically, it helps like a lot. Like they, for some reason, they just lock like right away. So things like that typically um, tend to help out a lot. And then I usually, this is one of the reasons that I like to introduce them like early. So let's say if I know I'm gonna breed them, right? So let's say I don't know, like my son said to my clown pie, and then if the son says like the that newer breeders like really small, I tend to have them just play around, to put that male to that female tub, just to kind of like have him get used to it, kind of like know maybe the smells or the area, how big it is, because I find it if they get comfortable when they, when the time is comes when they have to breathe, for some reason. But luckily, like ARS make that 5540, so it's a little bit smaller than 70, 30, so it's much more packed. And then for some reason, like new males tend to get used to it because it's not like a much bigger space, that so they don't get like really stressed out, maybe like new areas or things like that, and then that thing alone helps a lot. So like knock on wood, typically like any project that I'm working on right now, I always able to get the mail like ready to go. So yeah, just using for kind of like those new small things.
Yeah. Yeah, and it just comes with experience. Trying to
Yeah.
do little subtle things. That's whatever's going to work. But yeah, I think that's kind of the deal where once we start moving our males around, even the young ones, I'm not, if they don't lock up right away, like the first time you put them with a female, it's really not that big of a deal. You gotta, the seasons, you got a long season ahead of us, so it'll be time. Maybe he doesn't get right to them earlier girls, but halfway through the season or maybe even to the late season, he'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Because sometimes you know have that like a particular project that you really want to hit, and it just sucks
Oh yeah.
sometimes. Is like one of the males or one of the females, decided not to go, right? So sometimes you have the female like ready to go, but the male is like slacking out on you, right? So it's really good to have that like a balance sometimes. Well, maybe consider it as a lucky charm too, because if the art is not with you or the luck is not with you, you just cannot hit it for some reason.
Yeah, yeah, and that's where we've actually, my brother and I have talked quite a bit now about
Mm,
potentially starting to hold back a backup male that might not, maybe
yeah,
it's missing, maybe doesn't have quite all the genes in it. Maybe if it's,
yeah,
if it's a codominant or whatever that's got, 3 or 4 genes in it, plus it's, het clown or something, and then you got one that's got 2 genes in it, and then it's het clown, to hold both of those back, just so you don't have to switch up your projects. Where now all of a sudden you got to go to one whole different side, one that you weren't quite planning on, or if you didn't see a lock by the young male, now you got my 2 dad clutches and that kind of stuff, and yeah, that can get frustrating.
yeah, yeah. Um, how do you deal with haters?
Luckily, luckily, as far as like emails go and stuff like that, my
Uh-huh.
my wife does an excellent job of explaining and being able to, when you read that email, exactly how to read it. The
Hmm.
deflection and all that stuff about what they're actually saying. So my
Yeah.
wife is very politically correct, and she does a great job at handling that. Where I'm more
Okay.
of a face-to-face type guy. So, but for the most part, overall, I've learned that you just got to ignore them. Just, there's so many people out there that are, regardless of what you do, they're going to be negative and they're going to hate on you. But just like me and you both know, there's so many great people out there that, as long as you
Yeah.
focus on those guys, and focusing on the good people in the industry, them haters are going to take care of themselves. They're gonna fall to the wayside, and not last very long.
Yeah. I mean, there's always, like someone that for some reason just, trying really hard to bring you down, right? I mean, in any hobbies, in any industry. But the, the, the really funny thing is because I have like so many hobbies, and then reptiles hobby, for some reason, the hater is kind of like out of the chart. They just wanna
Right.
like stab you in the back like really really bad for some reasons. And then I mean, for us, we've been in this hobby for a while, so we know the inside out, all the peoples, all the like all the key players. But sometimes I feel bad for these new peoples, right? Because I have this kid that following me, and then she actually tried to make like like a YouTube video. I mean, yeah, that's true. She said like something not really um, co- you know technically correct, but I mean, she's just a kid, right? So this one guy just
Yep.
like bash her like out of nowhere, like, "Oh, you're doing it wrong. You should not doing this like video this YouTube video. You should stop because you do not know what you're doing." And then the funny thing is if you actually go to this guy page, he doesn't even know what he's doing too. So
Right.
it just kind of like hilarious, like what are you talking about? I mean, if you bash someone because if you're an expert, that's another thing. But the funny thing is mostly expert, those experts that know what they're doing, they don't have time to go to like other like kids page or something like that to just hating on them. So it's just hilarious.
Yeah, it's hard to, if there's people out there that are hating on,
Hmm.
somebody that's making a simple mistake. I mean, it would have been just as easy for you to type out a message that was actually giving them information or helping them fix what they made the mistake on, versus ripping on them.
Yeah, yeah. um do you have anything for sale right now?
Oh yeah, that's my plan here this next week. After getting back from the Super Show, we're gonna go
Mm.
through, and we need to update our morph market, and then kind of start picking, some of the stuff that we had for sale that we, if it sold, great. If it didn't, we might put it on the hold back shelf now. So we're going to try
Uh-huh.
to get everything updated here in this next couple weeks, and then I think our next show is probably March Tinley.
Okay. What project are you working on right now? Because I know you guys really big into that black hat, right? Red Atlantic, and then what else?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We pretty excited with the blackhead stuff. I think one of the pairings we last year we produced a really nice blackhead champagne yellow belly male. So I
Yeah,
put
I
him
saw that
to
one.
a
Hmm.
yep. I put him to an inchy pastel inchy super stripe, and
Oh
then
wow.
an
Okay.
inchy calico female. Yeah, so we're trying
Oh
to just
wow.
go a
Okay.
little different direction.
Yeah.
I think I saw somebody finally produced an inchy super blackhead not too long ago. I saw on Facebook or something like that, and that was really cool. It actually turned that solid black to like a kind of a gold color.
Yeah.
So I think there's some really
Yeah.
cool stuff you can do with that. Yeah, we love the red axanthic stuff. I got this past year we produced a couple different combos for the het red clowns. So yeah, this year I'm hoping to get a few more combos out there for the het red project and the clown stuff.
Yeah. Okay. And then the best to reach you guys is Insta or emails or more market or
Yeah,
website.
kind of all of the above. Instagram, Facebook, Morph Market. We got the email on there. I believe my cell phone number is
There.
is on the Morph Market too. Whatever's easier.
Okay. And then if one of my followers want to get something from you, can you hook him? Can you hook them up?
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course. That's
Yeah.
another big thing. With once you know
Hmm.
the people that you're dealing with, we all kind of develop the relationships with each other. Once we know what projects you're working with, if I don't have it and I know yourself has it, or one of our other friends, we're definitely gonna
Yeah.
push those new customers in the right direction just so they get taken care of.
Yeah. Um, well, we already hit that 1 hour mark, Joe. So we talk like time flies when we're like
Oh
having
yeah.
fun.
Yep.
Yeah. So thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate your time. And then if there's anything else I can do to help you guys, always feel free to reach out.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We really appreciate you taking the time, to do this for us. And I always love talking to you. Seeing you at the shows, and
Mm.
I guess if you need anything from me, always feel free to reach out.
All right. So if there's nothing else, then I'll see you guys next Tinley. Well, not this one, but maybe the one in fall.
All right. Yeah. Have a great breeding season. Keep me posted on what you
You
got
too.
going.
Awesome. All right, Joe. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Joe. All right. Take care.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.